South Sudan civil society as South Sudanese, discussing the last conclude 3 days conference on South Sudan civil society. I am glad to be joined by process, elections, justice, and security reforms. Tell us about this concluded
administrative areas. We also had among us representatives from the political parties, and we thought it is very important because the agreement through the roadmap. And in this extension, it was envisioned that a lot of the outstanding activities, that collection of uncertainties, whether even the election which is being promised for December will be able to happen. And then also it raises a question of then if we're unable to have the parties will take for consideration to guide us towards a peaceful end of the transition period.
Thank you so much, Godin. Let me come to Agustino. Agustino,
origin of this conversation. I think last year in December we were honored with him to be part of the delegation that was in Dar es Salaam for a meeting of civil society, which brought in about this time we sit as civil society, both at the national level, state level. Meeting was okay, and we also want to really appreciate our leaders in the country because when we extended the invitation, we also got a feedback of this and this, and that we discovered within the 3 days before I come to your question on election, is that staying with us from the time they were called up to even leaving at 6 in the evening. So we saw some kind of seriousness
maybe Agustino,
from the leader. Basically, there was it was an interacting process. Leaders talking to us talking to them, disagreeing to agree. For the first time, you get leaders and directing us how far we are going.
Sure.
But this year, I have not heard, unless some of you had, where the leaders came out and said, now we are left with this small period. There was a research which was done. We all know. People feel the only way out is unless they have the elected leaders. So that could be helpful. But then the question is the time to start leaving the country. And that because they have a perception that this might not happen, conflict might come, this and this. So it was good, and we are very happy and excited that, you know, when leaders speak, elections is a process. South Sudan will have election whether today, whether tomorrow, whether with the roadmap process, but still this country will have election. The issue is
that conclude yesterday in Juba. Maybe with some few recommendations, as you mentioned, or the outcome of the of the conference regarding
important to underscore. But also, secondly, we are very much interested in seeing that even parties and candidates who participate in these elections are free to conduct their activities. And why this is important is because I have had the privilege of meeting with the chair of the National Election Commission to discuss some of polling stations where they have registered are the ones that are within their vicinities. Because we have also had, as a member of Arjamek, of course, this is an issue that we have taken very serious, and we have been advocating and requesting the government to also avail the necessary support and resources towards a tool that takes back conflict.
Okay. Now, before we give it to Agustino, what role is civil society?
As early as November, we had made a recommendation to the parties and to the government to engage in a dialogue crisis. And the only way out of this crisis is for us to sit down and dialogue. Of course, some of the parties have put out their positions, like the SPLM-IO said the election is deferred to maybe 1 or 2 years. So already you see that their position is coming out on how to happen. Yeah, yes. It should have happened yesterday, not even today. So there is that appetite for us to vote. But now how do we get to deliver this voting to happen in a peaceful environment. I think that is...
Maybe also you can add regarding the parties to the agreement, and also disagreement within the parties here and there, and the question of whether there is election.
Conversation, where we propose the civil society, the church should do the convening, and the civil society are offering its agenda, and also try to convince its mass. We have seen always in when the process of election, you have seen
everyone is taking positive.
So the issue is if it is the preparation of things, and we leave the executive the way it is and the governors, because the problem of this country is not the elections of MPs. Let's be very frank. If you see where the country simple, whether we like it or not, those races cannot. So to me, that scenario could work, not their scenario or the scenario of not election. To do with the truth, healing, and reconciliation. The deployment is unfinished. The process is not going on. I sit in Citizen. And when you hear the reports from Citizen, bring in the civil society, bring different representatives, let the church lead my choice. He fails, fine. Also, the other thing, when we talk of elections, I feel very disappointed. We are only looking at elections and the conflict. We are not looking
to agreement to discuss the issue of the hybrid courts, and also the issues to do with what the stages are they still planning, or what do they want to do?
It's going to be a deterrence for such kind of crimes to be carried out in future, but also to restore justice to those who are victims of these conflicts that have happened. So, of course, that forward for elections. Let them also discuss then the way out. Exactly. And last year, there was a 10-point program to deliver a census within the remaining period of time. They probably need about 16 months. So now, in going for elections, how do you address that question? The permanent constitution, which the South Sudanese will write, will be the basis for us to go for elections in December. But also, I think we have come to the agreement that it's not possible to have that was started yesterday by the parties, that they could reach some sort of consensus. Then there is a very slim
narrow,
and
I think
which is slipping away.
I will agree with him.
I just want to make too many workshops around. People have the coffee, but we'll have time for tea break. For guests of honor and the other.
It is better late than never. It is important for you to sit down, discuss your affairs of the country.
Have a momentous task before us to engage in critical discourse.
We do not sleep day and night. What is happening? To come to discuss. This is the nature of South Sudanese
way on how to handle our conflict. That is talking about the way forward on the transitional period process, elections, security reforms, and judicial reform too. And they are able to discuss that to a government, saying, no, government, don't do this, it's going to affect the citizen. The citizen, no, don't do this, this is what citizens are saying. You have been discussing this process for the last 3 days. And I will still ask this.
I don't know to call it shock or no ideas or what, because shock or no ideas or what, because we expected 2024 should not be a year of throwing language. We are not ready in a humble way than going to public and people start saying no more extension, no more. For us, they want an account where you that we need a commission on the Youth Enterprise Fund. A commission should be formed as the issue of the security arrangement. And all in all, we are saying the dialogue is important. So it's easy people to understand. I said there is no election because this and this is not ready, yeah? But also the population, I still repeat, none of them had gone to the court. And up to now, tomorrow, if we go for election and people dispute, and also our leaders should learn the problem. People are tired, let them go for election. We need a parliament. On the constitutional making process, there's where they call the Constitutional Assembly. As Godi said, why can't we look for something that the population goes happy, you go happy, and that is happy. This country, we are now there, those leaders are soon also starting their dialogue. Now these ones here should dialogue, let them open their hearts, because this country is more than them. Let them dialogue. Leaders should avoid using words now, political will, political will. They are all leaders. Why should another leader say this one has no political will when you're a leader, you're in the same government?
Tell the civil population and the government what to do. What role are you doing now currently as a civil society to make sure that you also engage the international community to
reflecting the views of our people? And this is not only in Juba or in the state capitals, but as far as, you know, the Payams, the counties to exist. So we engage with international partners, of course, to extend support also to the people of South Sudan. Is receiving a lot of support from the international community. But of course, we're encouraging our government that this is your major responsibility. Yeah. The question is, now we're having a crisis in Sudan. And this has sort of created another huge humanitarian crisis that South Sudan as a country is unable to provide for these people. So this is an opportunity for us. Reservations about the transitional period, but we are richer on resources that are available to take care of that humanitarian crisis. So those are some of our engagements that we are undertaking, bringing forward ideas that are coming from our people on how to make the country a better place for all of us to live in. So those are some of the things that we are doing. But in this season, but the question now should be, what kind of extension are we going to have? When we had the first extension in 2021 or 2018, but now we need to really have very strong commitments to our people and saying, we are really sorry we are unable to. And some of these fundamental commitments that could, in a great way, not reproduce the failures of the past extensions is, for instance, going to worry about the issue of finance anymore. It will be up to these commissions to be undertaking their work. By the time we reach to December, they have also made some serious whatever kind of extension that they will propose. But anything short of that, I think, will not be easily welcomed by.
And you are part of the agreement. Is civil society able to continue creating the space for the stakeholders' engagement to make sure that whether there is election or not?
Gone ahead and started doing civic education to the population to understand what should happen during elections on voter registration, on how the observation started. I am happy that they talked yesterday. It might have not been good, but I am very sure they will come up with a resolution. But then they should come up with something that will not only fit their political party. Of win-win, lose-lose, those things you compromise. So basically for me, I feel this, we call on the media itself, SSBC, media.
We are not going back to the old chapter. That one, we, although having difficulties with this current phase where we're in, but we are going, we do not lose them by going back into conflict. This has provided us a foundation that whatever case it may be, if we go for elections or an extension, that
We have come to the end of the program. Thank you so much for following this.